Hi all. So in the previous videos we started on this file and we went over a few basic things. We went over part 1, part 2, part 3, and now we're up to part 4. Okay, so here I'm basically recommending that you get your CCW before you become a security guard. That's kind of above and beyond the Call of Duty, but I think it would be a good idea. Okay, so just to follow my file here, CCW is carry concealed weapon, and CCH is carry concealed handgun. So most things these days, like, we say CCW, but we really mean CCH. You get your permit to carry a concealed handgun. Each state is different. You can download the manual from your state. Let's see here. If you just type in your state name and then put a .gov after it, that should bring you to your state's website. And from here you can search for the CCH manual. So let's say, let's just try CCH here and see what comes up. Okay, so it comes up as CCW. So I'm going to right click on this guy. So here's the manual here. Concealed Carry Laws Manual. And there's also a application here. And then here's a renewal application. Instructor search. What I would do there is find your local police store, where they sell uniforms and things like that, and talk to the people there that work in the store and ask them who the good instructors are. They'll usually have recommendations. They'll say take it from this person, stay away from that person. They all might be good instructors, but the thing is, if they've only been teaching it for a year or so, if you end up shooting someone, they have to go to court for you, from what I've heard. And who would you rather have in court? Someone who's been teaching this for a year or two and maybe quit teaching it, or someone who teaches it for a living and has been teaching it for 20 years? So that's your call. So here, if I right click this guy and go new tab, here's the booklet. You should be able to pick this up at your local sheriff's department. Just call around, see if you can find it, but these days you should be able to download it. So they're small, they're only 29 pages. You can easily print something like this out. You know, 29 pages, it doesn't go into great detail, but it's short and to the point, what you must know. So, okay. So getting back to my file here, I recommend getting your CCH before becoming a security guard, even if it's not an armed security guard job. In case you run into a weapon, you're walking around in a building, checking doors and things like that. You run into a burglar, they got a gun, you get into an incident and you end up with the gun. You want to know what to do with it, how to unload it, how to use it, things like that. And then here, sitting in guard shack, somebody brings in a gun and says, "Here, I found this out in the parking lot." Well, you're like, "Oh, here, set it on the table over here." If you know something about guns, you'll be able to unload it. You'll know it's safe. So that's what I'm talking about here. Knowledge of handguns, semi-automatics, revolvers. You should know the difference between an automatic, a semi-automatic, a revolver. Knowledge of rifles. Not that you have to be a genius at all this stuff, just a general understanding. Knowledge of shotguns. You pick up a shotgun, is it 12 gauge, 16 gauge, double barrel, single barrel, pump, Knowledge of shooting incidents. That's probably one of the important ones. Getting your CCH, that kind of, it heightens your awareness. Being, walking around with a handgun in your pocket, knowing at any second you may have to use it. Deadly force, of course, last resort. That's the most important thing. It's last resort, not first resort, last resort. But it makes you look at things a lot different, and having that type of knowledge or experience, I think, is a good thing, because that's the business you're getting into, security guard. Even if it's not an armed security guard job, I think, it's a good thing to do. Okay, so I talked about it earlier too. Getting your CCH or CCW, they put you through a background check, so you're good. You know you're going to pass. So when you go for a security guard job, they do a background check. You know you're good to go. So this stuff up here, knowledge of handguns and rifles and things like that, and not just an everyday run-of-the-mill gun knowledge. A lot of people have that type of knowledge, but law enforcement gun knowledge, it's a whole nother ball game. Sure, you have to know how to load it and unload it and clean it and buy a holster, wear it in the holster, keep it on your body secure, but knowing when to use it, when not to use it, from a law enforcement perspective, that's a whole nother ball game. It's just another tool. Your first tool is verbal. You run into a fight, two people fighting, how do you de-escalate it? You do it verbally. If you can't do it verbally, you might use a nightstick or mace, maybe a stun gun if you're permitted. If it heightens to deadly force, well, then you have a CCH, or you're an armed security guard. You do what you have to protect people. I wouldn't use your weapon to protect property, only human lives. Okay, so I would recommend just a Ruger 380. It's just a small handgun. See, if we go to the website here, you can usually find these on sale for $200, sometimes even less, $199. You might be able to find a used one because some people might buy them and not like them. But I don't know if I'd go that route because you never know what it's been through. So $199 really isn't that bad. Just throw it on a credit card. Okay, so there's two basic models. You can see this would be the one that I would recommend. This one has a laser on it. The laser's nice, but it adds $50-$60 to the bill. And it's just this little guy snaps on. It just snaps onto the front here. It's got a little battery inside here, and the light points out the front. You really don't need that. The first one I bought had the laser. It sounded cool. The salesman talked me into it, but it's really not necessary. I would just go for this one. It's just a little smaller. It's a little easier to carry in your pocket. And if you do become an armed security guard, then you can carry this one as a backup. You're going to work, and all of a sudden the one you usually carry at work breaks for some reason. But that's rare. But you never know. Then you have some type of backup that you can still carry. So you can see here, you'll see them for at least $225, $250. But if you just look around, you can always find them like for $199. These days they make a lot of different colors. There is an original version, and then they have an updated version. And I think in the updated version they fixed a few problems. So maybe if you get one of the original versions, you might be able to get it cheaper. I have two of the original, and the first one is the one with the laser, and I put at least 1,000 rounds through it. I think it only jammed 3 times, and that was from my error, because when I shoot it, my wrist was weak and it would jerk a lot, and they say when you jerk it a lot, it keeps the shell inside the chamber here. So I wouldn't say it was caused by the gun. It was caused by operator errors. So 3 times in 1,000 rounds. So okay, so that's the one that I would recommend, but there's all different types. I went into one store, they have a used rack, and they had a Smith & Wesson Model 10 for I think $1 1/4, really cheap. So I bought it. That's the original revolver that most policemen carried for years. I just happened to walk in at the right time. Some fella had brought it to the store. He wanted to sell it. They threw it in the gun case. And, I have some videos that I had made on using one of these things. I had taken them down, and maybe I'll put them back up. But what I recommend is, make sure you go to the gun range. First step is buying it, but you really have to go to the range and learn to use it. If you go once a week, just like music lessons, you would go once a week, right? That's going to be like $15 to $20 each time. Sometimes you can go for a half hour, cost you like $10 or so. But that half hour goes by pretty quick. So what I would recommend is, if you can afford it, buy the annual membership. Most ranges have like an annual membership. Last I knew, one that I went to was like $3.25 for the year, and you could go as many times as you want, within reason. Once a day for an hour. You can't go in there 8 hours a day. I don't think they would permit that. But as long as you're actually working on something, trying to learn something, I don't think they'd bother you, But it's usually annual membership within reason, and as long as there's nothing else going on there. They have training sessions for security, for CCW, local police departments, and things like that. As long as there's nothing else going on, you can use it anytime you want. So, lots of ranges you can rent, but then again, that's going to get expensive. But it's a good way to get started. Some gun ranges have classes. Take a 1 or 2 day course for $100 or so. You may not want to buy a shotgun or a rifle, but you could take a course on how to use one, and just use the one there at the range, right? I have a shop near me. It's called Point Blank. Here's your website. You have some ranges in your area that'll probably do this type of thing. See here, they have a menu here. It says classes. Your carry concealed 1 and 2 day classes. Private lessons, 2-hour private lessons for $99. See, that's kind of expensive, but it's one-on-one too, so you can't beat that. No. Especially if you're just getting started. You don't have no one to actually go to the range with you. We'll go available. CCW 9 to 5. Okay, so here's your general classes. Intro to firearms, 1 hour. It's free. Can't beat that, right? Basic handgun, 4 hours for $50. That's a pretty good deal. Carry concealed course, pricing by state. See, each state's different. When I took it, I think it was $125 for 2 days. Basic AR, 4 hours for $60. AR building, $649. Wow. Advanced handgun, $100. So you can click here, go view all events, and they've just got an online calendar where they list all their courses. You can choose the store closest to you. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that this type of thing is out there. Find a store that's close to you, and see what they offer. Okay, so I think I talked about these books earlier. So the book that they used in my CCW course was this one here, and that was the NRA Guide to Basic Pistol Shooting. This is the older one. I think they come out with a new one every now and then. You can get an older one for like a couple bucks. And it's basically the same stuff. You know, some things might change, but the basic handguns and things like that, it's all the same. And then this is another one that I would recommend. The NRA puts out all types of booklets, but I think this one's good. It's Basics of Personal Protection in the Home. That would help you as a security guard. You know, how do you handle incidents, not only burglaries and things like that, but general day-to-day incidents with angry people wherever you're a guard. You know. And then first aid course. You know, take a Red Cross first aid course. You know, they usually do it in like a day or two. You know, they go through that whole book in just a couple courses or just a couple hours. When I took it, I was pretty young. I don't remember exactly how long they spent with this, but you know, it might be 5 classes or so. And last I knew, it really didn't cost much. So it looks good on your application. You know, you're applying for a security guard job, and you say, I'm Red Cross certified. Here's that booklet that we looked at online earlier. You can see it's just a small, thin one. You know, we'll go into more detail in these in future videos. We'll pick through it. And then I just bumped into these just recently. You know, I think these are really cool. You know, I bought this one on first I got it at the library. That's how I bumped into it. You know, just walking around, I just happened to see it on the shelf. You know, and then I went on Amazon, and this company, they make a series of these. You know, I bumped into this one at Lowe's. I got this one at Lowe's for half price. They had a book rack in the front of the store. So I think these are good because they bring up topics that you would never even think of. You know, how to survive in an emergency. Some of the stuff might be, you know, above and beyond the call of duty, but if you're a guard and there's an emergency, what do you do? Like here's one. You know, help a lost child. You know, it's kind of common sense, but here's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps that hopefully an expert wrote that tells you what to do. So this one I haven't really had a chance to get into yet, but I glanced through it. It seemed pretty extreme. But here, build a first aid kit, stop bleeding, disinfect a wound, bandage a wound. So, first aid. You know. Well, that's just the first couple pages. What to do in the wilderness, what to do in a disaster, live through a flash flood, live through lightning, install lightning rods on your roof. Yeah. You know, it's just a lot of cool topics. You know, not that you have to sit down and read it word for word, but as you're sitting around the house, you know, you're flipping through these, and if you happen to bump into something at work, at least you got a general understanding of what to do, more than the average person, you know, because you're a security guard. Okay, so all that being said, be highly knowledgeable about this stuff, but don't be nuts about it. It's good to be excited and enthusiastic about learning the new skills, but don't be crazy about it. Like I worked somewhere for a while, and my boss, that's all he talked about was guns. He had been in the military. I think he was over in Iraq or something like that. Still a young guy, nice person, but every time you bumped into him, that's all he was talking about constantly, over and over and over. So, you don't want to get the reputation as a gun nut, but know what to do with them if you have to. Okay, so I think we'll call it a day on that section. See you next time. Bye.